everyone and welcome back. Today I have a bunch of books that I would like to talk about, and as you can read from the title, these are books that are pretty new releases and that I haven't read yet, which is a shame because obviously I would like to read and review them very soon. Some of you out there might be considering buying and reading these books, but you're not sure yet. And then I could maybe help you and read these books and actually review them. And I would like to do that very soon. But the thing is, you cannot read over 10 books at the same time. That's the thing about being a book reviewer. You have to select some of the books and read those first. So basically, today I would like to show you what titles I'm talking about. And if you want to, you are welcome to let me know in the comments which books you would like for me to get to sooner rather than later, as I'm going to include books which came out in 2016. So some of them will be about half a year old, but most of them will be pretty new releases from this summer. And then in the end of this video, I'm also going to include some releases which came out in 2015, just because I really want to talk about these books and I still feel like they are new releases. However, let's start on the pile from 2016. The first one I've got is this beautiful, beautiful novel. This is The Muse by Jessie Burton. You might recognize her name because Jessie Burton also wrote The Miniaturist, which I read 2 years ago, I think. And I liked it. I was intrigued, but I wasn't absolutely sold. I'm hoping that this book will convinced me that she is an amazing author. This book takes place in London and it is a historical fiction about a woman who is hired to be a typist. One day they receive some kind of a masterpiece which turns out to be quite mysterious. It's very vague, the synopsis, but I'm still interested to read it. I will admit that I was in love with the cover and then I read the synopsis and I kind of fell in love with that as well. So here we have it. Next is What Belongs to You by Garth Greenwell. Now this book is about an American teacher who meets a boy in the bathroom and he pays him for sex. This experience takes him on quite a reflective adventure, you could say, because he has to come to terms with what is going on. Is he a gay or not? Is it acceptable for his surroundings that he is a gay because he is from the South? He grew up down there, and back then when he was a child it was not accepted to be gay, which I don't understand. I'm not saying I agree, I'm just saying what this book is about. So this one is very short. There is no excuse for me not having read it yet, other than I, as I said, cannot read all titles at once, unfortunately. Then we have one of my favorite authors, one of the authors that I discovered this year, and she just came out with a new book, and that is Anne Tyler's Vinegar Girl. This is a retelling of a Shakespeare play, the play called I always get it wrong. The Taming of the Screw. Don't ask me why I can't say that, I just can't. I haven't read The Taming of the Screw. I really haven't. I should do that, but I don't want to. Basically, I just want to read this one. And if I really fall in love with the story and I'm intrigued, then I might read the Shakespeare play. But as you know, that will require a lot of attention, a lot of focus, a lot of time, and I don't feel like I have that right now, so I'm not making any promises. A lot of these new releases that I'm going to talk about take place in different countries, and I'm in love with that. I love reading about different cultures and different people, and the next one takes place in Switzerland. This is the Gustov Sonata by Rose Treman. This is about a very peculiar friendship between two boys, and there is kind of a very vague distinction between whether it's a friendship or whether it's love. Also, the main character has just lost his parents, I believe. I obviously haven't read it yet, but he deals with some sorrow and this friend of his helps him in that sorrow, and then the connection between them grows and it's hard to figure out what is really going on between them. I want to read this book for two reasons. I feel like the synopsis sounds super interesting. I think that these struggles that the characters are going to go through are very universal, things that we can relate to, and I love those kinds of stories. But I also love the fact that it takes place in Switzerland, because I can't remember the last time I read a book that took place in that country. Then we have a book that takes place in Spain, and that is Hot Milk by Deborah Levy. Now this is about a mother and a daughter who goes to this magical place, this island, assuming that's what we can see on the cover. And then that makes them focus a lot on their relationship. So once again, it's a book about the relationship between two persons. I think it's very universal. I think it's very interesting. And I do believe that you can learn a lot from reading these kinds of stories, because all of us have relationship with a family member, with friends, with love connections. All of us know of this struggle that you can have with another person. So I am also very interested to read this one, and it's another one of those very short books. Next is LaRose by Louise Erdrich. This is about a man or a woman, I'm not sure actually, but this person goes hunting and he or she believes that they are shooting a deer. However, it turns out that he or she, this is getting ridiculous. Anyway, I'm just going to say it's a man. It turns out that he actually has shot the neighbor's son, which is very, very tragic, obviously. And that's all I know, but that was enough to make me intrigued. I want to know what is going to happen with this man and his guilt and his relationship to the neighbors. So I obviously have to read it in order to know that. The Sacred Comb? I don't know. This one by Thomas Maloney. This is about a husband whose wife suddenly leaves him, or yeah, leaves him. She doesn't die, she just decides to leave him all of a sudden after many years of marriage. And so he is left alone in the rural land of England, trying to figure out how to continue living his life alone. Another one of those stories that I think is very interesting. How do you deal with loneliness after so many years of marriage? I want to know. I know this is fiction, but I still believe that you can learn a lot from these kinds of stories. So another one I'm intrigued to read. The Dollmaster and Other Tales of Terror by Joyce Carol Oates. Now, I mentioned this in my last video, which was about the Try a Story tag, because I read a story from this short story collection and I loved it. This is a very creepy and eerie short story collection in which the theme is basically tales of terror. So I think I'm going to save this one for October. You know why? And I'm obviously so intrigued to read this just because I read the first story and I was in love. It was really good, and this is exactly what I love to read during the cold, wintry, autumnal months. So let me move on to the books that came out in 2015 and that I still consider new releases. The first book is The Little Red Chairs by Edna O'Brien. This book is about a man who comes to this village in Ireland. So we are now in Ireland. He turns out to be very charismatic but also very mysterious. So of course he creates some kind of chaos in this village. People start noticing him and they want to know who he is. I believe that's what this book is about, and the cover is very, very autumnal and wintry. So this is another one of those books that I might save for autumn. Then we have a book that takes place in Africa, and this is Shame by Melanie Finn. Now, I saw this on a booktube channel and it was one of those books that I immediately went online and ordered, and I'm not sure why, because the synopsis sounds interesting enough, but not like something that would convince me to buy it immediately. I think I was just having one of those days when I wanted to buy books. I had the book buying itch, as you might know, and this one was the one I went for. It deals with a woman who suddenly finds herself in Africa, even though she is from Europe. She's all alone and she doesn't want to reveal to the people surrounding her where she's from and what has happened to her husband and her children. So that's very interesting. It's obviously going to be a book about secrets, and I like those kinds of stories now and then. Then we have a book that I have shown you so many times on this channel since I went to London, And it's ridiculous because every time I show it to you, I tell you I will read this one very soon because I want to. I still haven't read it. This is The Past by Tessa Hadley. I'm not going to say too much about it because I've already talked a lot about it, but it is about a family of 4 kids who gather in their grandparents' house, and they haven't seen each other for a very long time. So there are some tensions between all of them. Then we have Mrs. Engels by Gavin McCree. And we also have a very loud car outside. Anyway, this is going to be a little bit embarrassing because this is supposedly about a woman living with a very famous man. And it's about who she is because she has been kind of neglected and overseen. So this author tries to give us her perspective in this story. Now, when I'm saying it's going to be a little bit embarrassing, it's because this famous man is a person that you're supposed to know. He's a real living man. No, he's dead now, but he used to be very famous. He's called Crablike Engels, and I don't know who he is. So I didn't want to Google him because this is who I am. I don't know who every person is. If you know, let me know in the comments. Crablike Engels from about 1870. I don't know who he is, but basically it's about the woman who has been forgotten, and we now get to hear her story. I think that sounds interesting. That leads me to the very last book that I'm going to show you in this video, and that is a stunning book. And I believe that the cover is the main reason why I bought it. You know how it is. And that is After the Parade by Laurie Ostlund. First of all, take a look at this gorgeous cover while I try to remember what it's about. Oh yeah, it's another one of those books that deals with a marriage that suddenly stops. Because this is about a man who suddenly leaves his wife, whom he lives with in New Mexico, and then he decides to move to San Francisco all by himself, and the woman is left alone. Now, that sounds interesting in my ears, so yes, I want to read it, I own it, and I'm obviously going to get to it sometime soon, hopefully. There is a baby crying outside. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, happy reading.